Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today is the 1st of August and I'm coming to you from Paris currently because I'm still here at my hotel. I have one full day and one half day left in this beautiful city. Today I'm going to the Louvre, so I'm very intrigued and excited and also a little bit hesitant because I know nothing about art. But yeah, I still have some fun time here in the city. But I wanted to start this reading vlog and let you know quickly what I'm currently reading and what my plans are for August, what you can expect from this vlog. So August is a month without a readathon, which is rare in the summertime for me, but we will have the magical readathon in September again this year, so August is free for me to do whatever I want. And so I decided to do a little like wheel challenge. So first off, I will finish the book I'm currently reading, and then I will use a wheel to definitely tackle my TBR because I definitely need to make good progress on my TBR in August. I've been saying that for the last 3 months. It hasn't happened, but August has to be the month. So the plan is that I will finish my 2 current reads. I'm currently reading The Hunchback of Notre by Victor Hugo. This was kind of like the book that has been on my TBR for a very long time, and that I thought, you know, if I don't read it while I'm in Paris, I won't read it at all. So I'm currently about 30% into that, and I hope that on the train tomorrow I will make some more good progress and then finish it off at home. And I am enjoying it. The beginning was definitely very fun. Then there is this part where we get a lot of descriptions about Notre Dame and the city in general, which gets a bit boring, but we'll see where we go from here. I'm definitely intrigued, but also this book is definitely a little bit problematic in its depiction of disability as well as Cynthia and Roma people, so we'll see about that. That's my physical read, or my ebook read, and then for my audiobook, I'm currently listening to My Contrary Mary. This one is also set in Paris, and this is kind of the sequel to My Lady Jane. We have characters that we already met in My Lady Jane that are important again in this one, and we are following Mary, Queen of Scots, and so far I'm not that far in, I think about 6 chapters maybe, but I'm having a really good time. This is kind of millennial humor, so it might work or might not work for you, but it definitely works for me. So yeah, I'm also excited to continue listening to that one. For my audiobook plans, I also acquired quite a few audiobooks in a Libro.fm sale, and so for August I also wanna read those. Like, I've been reading a lot of like other audiobooks, but I have quite a few on my list now that I have bought in sales on Libro.fm that I want to tackle in August. So we'll see how many we will get done. The first one definitely will be My Contrary Mary, and then I will continue on with the others. I think I have like 4 that I would like to read before the summer ends. So let's hope that this will be a successful reading month, especially when it comes to the TBR reduction. So today is the 5th of August. I'm back home, as you can see. Sadly, my little Paris adventure is over, but I had a really good time. Apart from like some health struggles at the beginning, I really enjoyed seeing Paris. I did a lot, like I saw a lot. I think I made the most out of this trip. You will have probably seen a couple more clips at the beginning of this vlog, and if you want to see more, I will have uploaded a complete Paris vlog as well, where you can see everything I got up to. But now we are talking books, and I do have a couple of updates I want to mention. Now, first of all, yesterday I read a complete book, which sounds more impressive than it is when you see the book, and that is Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. Now, this is one of the books I checked out from the library at the beginning of my sabbatical, and I never read. And so today I have to go to the library and bring those books back because I can't renew them anymore. So yesterday I decided to at least read this like tiny novella. And this book is set during Christmas, which may sound like it's not the perfect book to pick up right now. However, the weather in Germany is abysmal. It was rainy yesterday, it was so dark, and yeah, cold and everything. So it actually felt kind of fitting to read this book yesterday. And this has also a very interesting kind of melancholy feeling to it from the start of the book. Now, this book is set 40 years ago in the middle of the 80s in Ireland, and we follow a man called Bill something. He's referred to by his last name, but I'm not quite sure. Furlong? Is that how you say it? And he basically delivers coals and timber for heating. So it is Christmas time, and it's his busiest time for his business, basically. And he delivers some coals to a convent that is nearby. And when he's there, he encounters some like weird stuff about the girls who live there and kind of work at the laundry there. So this has a very dark kind of topic that it explores, and that is these Magdalene institutions that existed for a very long time, I think up until the 90s in Ireland, where girls were sent when they were pregnant and they were not married, and usually they got their kids taken away and they were forced to work in these convents and live under very terrible conditions there, so their families wouldn't have to feel the shame of what they did. So obviously, terrible topic that is like important to explore. And I think the way this was done in here is very interesting because our main character Bill actually was born to a mother who wasn't married. So basically his whole perspective as he uncovers this thing is of one of those potential children. And the thing is that his mother at the time was working for a rich widow, and she, against like what everyone else was thinking, was like, you don't have to stop working for me just because you're pregnant now. You can stay here, your kid can grow up here, and you just keep working for me. And that was like a very unusual thing in the 40s in Ireland. So for him, he kind of has this perspective of what he was kind of offered in that sense and what could have happened to him if his mother would have been sent to one of those institutions. And he's also the father of 5 daughters with his wife, and so he also has this perspective of like his daughters and wanting the best for them and protecting them and watching them grow up. And then when he sees these other girls at the convent, he has this like mental connection to his daughters and how he would feel if one of these girls were his daughter. So yeah, it's like very interesting perspective to explore this, and this is only about 110 pages long, but it has a real impact, and I really enjoyed this view. And also when he like discovers these things, he feels like he wants to do something about it, but his wife is telling him to look away. And at first you feel like, well, she should be an ally to these girls. Like, they're all like girls and women, so they should try to protect each other. But like, on the other hand, you know that she has 5 daughters, and all of their lives, like hers and her daughter's lives, depend on her husband, and that he is doing right and doing okay and doing well in this town. So obviously she's like, don't endanger your own daughters for like girls you don't even know. So yeah, I think the whole like viewpoint of this book is very powerful, and I gave this one 5 stars. So for my other 2 books I'm currently reading, I'm almost halfway into My Contrary Mary right now. That is my audiobook. This one is kind of a sequel to My Lady Jane, because we are again in the same world. Now, if you don't know this series, we have the Lady Janie series that has 3 books. First of which is My Lady Jane. However, those 3 books are not connected in any way. It's just by the same authors, and they explore different Janes of history. They're not in the same world or anything. So now we have this like Mary trilogy, or at least right now I think it's 3 books with the Marys. And the first book in that, My Contrary Mary, returns to the world of My Lady Jane. So those are in the same world with like characters we see in like both books basically. But it's not like a direct continuation. It's just like some side characters we saw in the first book now we follow in this book. And those side characters are Mary and Francis, and we also follow Aristotle Nostradamus. And yeah, this one is like very humorous. The humor is a little bit like millennial humor, and at some points in this I definitely feel like we're taking it a little bit too far. So for example, Ari has also some visions following her father basically, but her visions are modern movies. So she saw scenes from Titanic, for example, and the Titanic joke is getting stretched a little bit far here, because at the beginning of My Lady Jane, you have this like little sentence at the beginning that this book is for all the people who knew that the door was big enough for both of them. So, you know, returning to this whole discussion in this book now again, it's like it's stretching it a little bit, like a little bit far. There is some other stuff, but yeah, these books, they're basically like historical retellings, but they're not very truthful. And in this world, we do have kind of 2 types of people. We have Ethians and Verities. And Ethians are people who can turn into animals. And in the first book, this was like very clearly a discussion on like Catholics and Protestants and their struggles in England. And so I felt like there it really worked. I don't think it works like just as well in this book right now, because now we do have kind of like people who are Ethians but pretending to be Verities. So if you take this analogy, that would mean that they're actually Protestants but they pretend to be Catholics, which now things just start to get a little bit muddled, I feel like. But if you can overlook that, it's still a very fun story. This one also feels a little bit more contained because we're only at court and we follow the characters there, at least for the first half of the book. So basically, Mary is Mary Queen of Scots. When she was a very small child, she got sent to the French court to eventually be married to the Prince Francis. When we start the book, we're like very close to the point of time when they actually get married, and then we will also see what happens after. Now, you can obviously look up history, but this book will probably do some more fun things with it, because the history is actually a little bit sad if you look at it. So I'm definitely happy to continue this one. However, it will probably not reach my love that I have for My Lady Jane. And then for the Hunchback of Notre Dame, I am now about 2/3 of the way through this book, and it is in a way really fun. And it feels so weird to say that about a classic that is so old, but I think that Victor Hugo is actually a great storyteller. This is so like dramatic, and you can probably find like a lot of fault with it. The views in this book aren't always like up to our standards or whatever. He still is like progressive for his time, I would say. So for example, he really portrays the views of the people of the time in a more like nuanced way, and you can almost also see him like judge people for it a little bit. So for example, with Quasimodo, we have a character that is disabled, and he is hard of hearing because he was too close to the bells all the time as the bell ringer, so he can't really hear anymore. We have this scene with him and then a judge who's also very hard of hearing, and how in this whole scene, like if you read it, you view Quasimodo as the like normal person because he doesn't really hide his disability, he just lives with it. And then you have this judge who is like pretending that he can hear perfectly well, but because he is pretending that, he kind of is made fun of in a way, the way that he can't like just accept what he is because he's so scared of like what people will think of him and stuff like that. And so there's also these like little moments when you see just Hugo poking fun of all of these like negative views on marginalized groups a little bit. So again, with like the whole like discussion about Romani people we have in here, which is like a very big part of the story, I feel like he is really trying to show that they are also just people and that like horrible things can happen to them just because of the kind of superstitions of the time. So with Esmeralda, we have this like very tragic figure and a lot of like terrible stuff happens to her that she doesn't deserve at all. And yeah, I'm intrigued to see how this will all end, and I'm just having fun with it, which, as I said, it's a bit weird. Like, you have to get through the chapters when he's, like, overly describing Paris, but when it's actually about the stuff that is going on, I think this is, like, just such a dramatic thing, and, like, also a little bit ridiculous. And one thing he likes to do, which might also be, like, a little bit weird from, like, our nowadays perspective on literature, he likes to introduce characters that you don't really ever need again, but you need them to discover something. So for example, there's this scene with like these three women who talk about this tale from like a different city. There was a woman who whose child was stolen, and so you get told this whole story through these three women. You learn a ton of stuff about these three women. You'll never meet those again, so that's just something he does. But I think once you get used to his style of storytelling, the actual stories he tells are quite fun and dramatic, and yeah, it's good stuff. So these three books will go back to the library today. Sadly, I've only read this one, so the other two I will have to get again at some point. But let's hope I'm not picking up anything new today. Am I right, baby? Okay, but you didn't really believe I would come back without new books, right? I mean, it's a library. Who can resist? I also got a good stack of these little guidebooks for my upcoming trip to Italy. So I'm not sure I will take all of these books on my trip, but I can use them to prepare. So today is day 6 of August, and I have another reading update for you. So I just finished reading The Hunchback of Notre Dame by Victor Hugo, which is very exciting. It really feels like an accomplishment. I had read Les Mis previously and I had enjoyed it, but yeah, Victor Hugo is not a man of like few words. He does like writing his very long books. So having finished the second one just feels really great. I'm like really proud of myself right now. And I did have a very good time with this book as well. Now, as I said before in my previous updates, this book is not unproblematic in its portrayal of certain groups of people. This is not a very kind portrayal of Cynthia and Romani people, and also not of people with disabilities. However, I feel like Hugo always tries to make his characters very human, and I think I can appreciate that at least. And I think if you look at this as this like very tragic love story that I think in Hugo's mind this was, then is actually quite an interesting perspective on like who the two like partners of this potential tragic romance would be. But yeah, I don't want to spoil anything about that. It was a good time because Hugo can write some drama. And in this book, it's definitely very interwoven. You can see some of the connections of these characters, and it's all very tragic in the end. And still also very much like medieval drama. So yeah, I just had a good time with it. I'm giving it 4 stars. I don't think it's perfect. I think that if you want to read an abridged version where they leave out all of those lengthy discussions of architecture and the city of Paris, that makes total sense. For me personally, I also have to say that having just been in Paris and having been at some of these buildings, inside some of these buildings, on some of these like plazas that are mentioned, it really helped. Like, it really helped to have a little bit of an understanding of like the buildings and also the kind of like city plan. Like when Hugo starts describing like the city and the town and the university, if you have been there, it makes so much more sense, I guess, if you're reading these descriptions. So that definitely helped me get through a lot of this. And also I think just looking up some of these things might help. So for example, there are some structures described that are not standing anymore, that have been destroyed during the French Revolution, but you can still look them up on Wikipedia and then you understand what he's going on about. And some of this is also quite gruesome. I don't know how much like fancy of Victor Hugo's in there, but there were definitely some gruesome things going on in medieval times as well. But yeah, I had a fun time with this. Just like maybe look up some stuff before you go into this, but I really liked it and I really like Hugo's writing. And maybe I will pick up more of his books, who knows. So having said that, it is time for our first wheel spin, because what I wanted to do for August mainly is let a wheel decide my reads. So I made a couple of rules for this wheel. This wheel has all of my TBR books. So those are all of the books I owned before the start of the year. And so some of these I have owned for many years. Some of those I have received right before the end of last year. So it's a bit of a mixed bag there. It has all of those books, and that is 19. I took some off because they're more seasonal to me. There is one Christmas book, one book I want to read in October, and there is 3 books that for me are more like autumn winter reads. I took those off the list, so 19 is the number. I also put in the books on my summer TBR twice, so they have a higher chance of popping up because obviously they're on my summer TBR, so it would be nice to read them. So we have 9 books that are there twice, so 19 individual books, and 9 of those are in there twice. Also, something I wanted to mention is that some of these books are part of a series, so if I will get one of those, I will read like one book of the series. For some, I want to reread previous books before I read them, and for some others, I will read that book and then put immediately the next book in the series on. But you will see that when it happens. And then last but not least, for my rules that I made up, for every book that I take off, I will put in another one of my unread books that I acquired this year. So those are not currently on the wheel, but to make it a little bit more exciting, I wanted to put in some of those newer reads, but only if I take a book off. So that does not count for the series books I just mentioned. If I have to put in like another book of that same series, I will not put in one of the other books. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, let's just roll, let's just spin. Let's see what the wheel will give us. And so the wheel was very generous and it gave me one of my books that is on my summer TBR, and also one of those books that is not very, very long, which is great because Hunchback was quite long, so I am ready for a more normal sized book. Now, this one is Andreas-Salomé by Kerstin. This is a German book that is basically the biography of a woman called Andreas-Salomé. This woman knew a lot of like famous men like Nietzsche and Rilke, and so I think this book is about her life and how she met all of these men, but also how she, for the time, led a very independent life. And so I think that could be quite interesting. I think she also lived in some places where I have also lived previously, so that might be interesting. And this was a gift. I think I got this around like 4 years ago, maybe, or maybe even longer. Oh my god. So yeah, it's about time to read this. And then I wanted to quickly mention, with my audiobook, I'm now almost 2/3 of the way through. I'm still enjoying it. I think we are now getting into like the real fun of the story, where our characters are finally seeing some of the stuff that is going on in their court, and kind of the intrigues and who like the evil people are. So it's getting quite interesting. I hope to make some more good progress with that soon. So this might be one of the most awkward reading updates I'll ever film, but I have a cat on my foot. I don't know if you can see her, but she's so cute, and I can't move. She's just too cute. Look at her. But yeah, I'm now halfway through Andreas-Salomé, so I wanted to give you a little update. Today's the 8th of August as well. And while reading, I'm also preparing my next travel trip, which is very exciting. But let's talk about the book a little bit. I actually don't want to say too much about it. The writing style was very hard to get into. It's like this very pretentious German kind of academic style, and the book uses a ton of quotes, both by Andreas-Salomé herself and then also a lot of Nietzsche. So I have never read Nietzsche. I don't plan on ever reading more Nietzsche. I really am not interested in him at all. But yeah, this is basically a kind of like 19th century Not Like Other Girls. And she met Nietzsche when she was quite young. I think like, I don't know, was she 18, 17, something like that. And he was already in his 30s. So a lot of like older men and this like young girl happening. Now, nowadays we would probably say that she is somewhat asexual, like on the asexual spectrum probably. She's like really not interested in sexual contact in any sense. And the way it is written, it doesn't seem like it is only to avoid pregnancy. It really seems like she doesn't have any inclinations in that regard. And then also, she's definitely struggling with her gender as well, in the sense that she doesn't perceive herself as a woman, but mainly like as a woman of her time. Yeah, she definitely doesn't really adhere to the norms and stuff like that. She doesn't really have a great relationship with her mother because, she doesn't really want to do what she's told. And yeah, she is like a very well-educated person, and it is interesting. Like, it's not interesting. There's a lot of drama if you were a girl or a woman during that time and you didn't really want to marry people. Lots of drama going on. Men did not understand the concept. Everyone falls in love with her, like for real. She does eventually get married, and the whole story of that is just pretty crazy. So yeah, if you ever want to look into her, it's not uninteresting. I just really, like, at the beginning I hated the writing style of this. I'm getting into it a little bit more now, so we'll see. So I think the next part, so I'm halfway through, I just finished the first part. This has 3 parts, but the last one is really short. But I think the next part, the second part, is now going to be about her relationship with Rilke. So we'll see about that. I also haven't read any of Rilke, so not sure how that's gonna go. But yeah, I'm gonna continue reading now. So today is the 9th of August and I'm already back with another update because yesterday I actually finished reading Andreas-Salomé by Kerstin Decker. And I read a lot of this yesterday and I actually did have quite a good time with it. Now, scratch what I said about her being on the asexual spectrum, because right in the second part, once she meets Rilke, that's all out of the window. She has a sexual relationship with Rilke and then also with another man later on in her life. And yeah, this was an interesting read. It's definitely not one of my favorite books or anything. I found the amount of direct quotes we get in here a little bit obnoxious. I don't know, I think I expected a little bit something different from a biography, but still I think it gives an interesting perspective on the life of this woman who was definitely one of a kind for the time when she lived. As I said, especially the beginning reads a lot like a kind of not like other girls type of person. She doesn't really like women, and she's heavily influenced also by Nietzsche's view on women. So throughout her life that doesn't really change, even though she has some women in her life that are close friends that try to fight for women's rights. She's definitely not one of those. She will always see herself as removed from women, as something different, and yeah, you just have to take that as it is, I guess. But it was interesting. I decided to give this one 3.5 stars. Rilke is a whiny little bitch. Let's just say that. Oh my god, he got on my nerves and on her nerves as well so much. He's such a soft boy and he's just whiny. I understand why she wanted to get rid of him. So with that, we are getting ready for the next wheel spin. As I said, for every finished book, I will put a newer book on the wheel. And I decided to go with Disability Intimacy for the first new spot I have, because I have started this one in May and I just need the push to finally finish this book. So I put this one on the wheel and now let's see how things will go. Okay, so the wheel is definitely having a bit of a laugh at me because, for one, I'm getting the next book from my summer TBR, so that's great. I'm actually reading the summer TBR, but I think this is going to be kind of similar to the last book I finished. This is Links wo das Herz ist by Leonhard. This is a German classic. However, this man never reached like real popularity in Germany or elsewhere. His works were published in the GDR, and this is like a original copy from my family. Actually, I think this was one of my grandpa's books. It even has this little like note in it, and it says 1956, which at that point my grandpa would have been 15 years old. And yeah, as you may know, my grandpa passed away last year, so it's really like special to have some of his things. But yeah, am I super excited to read this book? Not really. I have read one of the books from this author before. He has kind of like two more popular books, Mathilde and then this one. I have read Mathilde. I think it was fine. Like it was a little bit male gazy, but I still was interested in it, and I didn't mind the writing style, so I think I might read this one quite quickly. This is also the most autobiographical work of this author, and he definitely had a like dramatic life because he was like very left-wing and also a pacifist. And so when the Nazis started ruling Germany, obviously he was a persona non grata. He was actually like his citizenship was revoked by the Nazis, and he then escaped to France. However, when the war started, the French had like internment camps for Germans, and so he had not only to flee the Nazis, but then also the French, because he was scared that the French would give him over to the Nazis. And so he tried to escape all of that. It was all very difficult and traumatic, and I think some of that is going to be in this book as well. So that is our next little wheel spin. The goal would be to finish this one tomorrow, so we can have another little spin, but I might also take a little break depending on what the next book's gonna be. We'll see about that. But yeah, I feel like I've read like a big classic, then this biography that was very much like quoting classic stuff, and now the next classic. So this is not what I usually read. That is also why all of these books are still on my TBR. However, that's why we have the wheel. That's why we have the wheel. Okay, so for my audiobook, My Contrary Mary, I finished it as well just a few seconds ago. I had a really good time with this book. I gave it 4 stars. I think that none of these books by this author trio will ever reach the level of love I have for My Lady Jane. However, in this one we do get a little cameo of Jane and G and Edward, and then also Elizabeth as well. So that was great. I was really happy to see these characters again and kind of like see what they're up to. And so yeah, I really loved that. I think like plot wise, it just is not quite as great. So yeah, I think with like My Lady Jane, it was like the first of its kind. It was like very, very special and different. And now all of these other books, while they're also really fun, they just don't have this like freshness. And I like that I know what I will get when I read these books, but on the other hand, it's just a fun time. It's just a fun time. And as I said before, it's very much like millennial humor. So I don't know how much like actual teenagers will enjoy these books nowadays, but I'm having a grand old time, and I really don't worry about it too much. So I will probably continue on with this series as well, but not anytime soon. These are very much books that I read when I'm completely in the mood for it. And I actually don't even know which one the next one is. I think one of them is about Mary Shelley. Not quite sure. So we are going to start a new audiobook today, and that will be Raise the Sands by Sarah Beth Durst. This is the next book for my authors I want to try. So this one I will probably not talk a ton about here, but I will do a complete reading vlog for this book. Raise the Sands is kind of the book that put like Sarah Beth Durst on my map, but since then she has published a ton of books that I want to read, so I just want to get this one out of the way so I can hopefully get into her other books as well. She writes like such a broad range of books, so I really can't wait to read it all. We're going to start off with Raise the Sands. So it is the 10th of August and I'm here once again with an update because I just finished reading Links wo das Herz ist by Leonhard. And this was a great read. And I'm saying that with a bit of surprise actually. I did not give you a halfway update of this because this is quite a short book. Actually, I read most of this yesterday. I just finished the last couple of pages now and I really enjoyed this book. As I said, this is very autobiographical. We're basically following the author throughout his life while he calls himself Michael in this version and not Leonhard as his name is. Maybe it was his like middle name or something, I don't know. So we are following a man called Michael Vierkant in this one, and he is born in Würzburg in the 1800s, very late 1800s, and we follow his journey as he moves to Munich and he starts becoming a writer after trying to be a painter for a while, and then we follow his life throughout the First World War. When he goes to Switzerland, he writes books and novellas that are against the war, so he has to leave Germany, but then after the First World War ends, he can return. He lives in Berlin during the Roaring 20s basically, but then in 1933, when the Nazis take over in Germany, he again has to leave, and so he goes to Switzerland and then to France, where he ends up in an internment camp, and basically the French, they don't want to let the people leave, but when the Germans come to take over the internment camp, he manages to escape with some other men, and they actually make it to Portugal by foot and by bike, and then finally he actually manages to go to the US because he has the help of some other writers that have already escaped to the US. So he lives in the US for a while and then finally in the 1950s returns to Munich once again, where he will live the rest of his life and finish writing this book. So it's very interesting. You see a lot of like German history in this, and also kind of the devastation that a person who is so against like right-wing parties and people that he feels for this country that he loves, that is his home, and how he has to return to this devastated place after the Second World War ends. And yeah, it's just heartbreaking in that way, and just a very interesting kind of piece of literature from that time. Now, he did believe that in the 2000s people would have gotten rid of capitalism and would live in a socialist society, so he might not have been quite on point with that, but apart from that, I think that you really get a feel for the man and the kind of belief he had that people can be good if they live in a society that allows them to be good, which he doesn't think capitalism is that. So yeah, it was a very interesting read. I gave this one 4 stars. It's almost a 4.25. I really liked how simple the writing is in a way, because German writers can be very pretentious, and he had this idea that the author has to do all the work and not the reader, and you really feel it with this book. Like, this is very easy to read and still you feel very immersed, and I really enjoyed that. So with this book out of the way, it is time for a new wheel spin. I quickly wanted to mention that the book I put on the wheel as a kind of replacement is Small Worlds. When I saw this in the library, I immediately snatched it up because I have read the first book by the author. I think it's called Open Water, and I love that book, so I can't wait to see what he wrote next. So that's on the wheel right now, and let's spin it. Okay, and with that, I have to say the wheel is doing what it's supposed to do, but at the same time, it is killing me because we got the next classic, and not only that, like this is more of a like very modern classic, but it is the longest book on my TBR. I can't believe that it did that. So yeah, we read a very long French classic, a nonfiction about German history, a autobiography about German history, and now we're going into the next kind of modern classic. And we're going from a book where the author believed that by the 2000s we would have like evolved into socialist society, to a book where the author explores the end of the GDR. This is Ein weites Feld by Günter Grass. I have read one book by Günter Grass. I never remember which one. Not the Tin Drum, one of the other ones. But okay, this is massive, this is heavy, this is over 700 pages. You might be asking, why am I doing this to myself? And I have no answer for that. The way this book got into my house is also a little bit funny because this is another one of my grandma's books. And basically, someone told her that she's not supposed to send money through the mail. And so while she was still like caring for my grandpa who passed away last year, she didn't really have an opportunity to get out of the house and to go to her bank and send me money. And so she took this book and she hid money inside the book, and then she put it in a box and she sent me the book with the money inside, and she even left a little note inside the book telling me on which pages the money is. That's my grandma for you. I have no words, but that's the only reason why I have this heavy ass book in my home. I never had any interest in reading it, so we'll see how that goes. I was hoping I would do at least like 4 wheel spins this month. This is my 3rd one. We'll see whether there will be one more. But I don't think I can survive like just going straight into this monstrosity and reading it. So I'm being a little bit of a cheat because I currently have the 3rd Emily Henry book. Emily Henry? What? The 3rd Emily Wilde book checked out from the library. And it's ready to go. And so what I'm going to do is I'm trying to read these books in tandem. So I will start Ein weites Feld today, but I will also start Emily Wilde later today. And I will try to read both at the same time to keep my sanity. Because I'm not a classic reader, and as I said, this is like very, very modern. This is almost my age, this book. It came out when I was like 4 years old or something. So I don't know what's going on. We can do this. We can do this. This is what the wheel was made for. And this is also a book from my summer TBR. So it's definitely what this wheel was made for. But I kind of regret my life decisions right now. Also, people don't seem to like this book. Ugh. Let me just read it. I'm just going to read it. I'll talk to you probably not very soon. So today is the 14th of August. I am feeling a little bit migraine-y, which might have like a lot of triggers, like the weather has gotten super hot here very quickly again. I had to go to the dentist yesterday. I haven't worked out in over 2 weeks. You know, you never know with the migraines where they come from, but not feeling super great. But I also haven't talked to you in a very long time, and I feel like I should update you. The reason why I haven't talked to you in a long time is this German book I'm reading currently, with its light 780 pages. I am now 400 pages in, so we have reached the halfway point finally, and yeah, this is a lot. I don't hate it, but it's a weird ass book and it should have been 250 pages long, in my opinion. So I'm fighting my way through this. The writing is actually not that terrible. We do have a main character called Theo Wuttke, and he is kind of the reincarnation of Theodor Fontane, who was a German writer in the 19th century. And so he basically has kind of this split personality where he cites Fontane all the time. However, he also kind of is his own person, but then a lot of his life also mirrors Fontane's life. And Theo Wuttke lives in the 20th century, and we're specifically looking at the time of the reunion of East and West Germany. So in that regard, it is quite interesting because I think it really captures that moment, and that is a moment I haven't lived through because that's literally when I was born. So it is interesting to get this perspective on like how people perceived each other and all of that. And so I don't hate it. There is another important character called Hofthaler, but also Talhofer. And this is a character from a different book by an author called Schädlich. And basically he was kind of a parody of the police and the police state. And in that novel, Talhofer basically shows, or is like supposed to show, how with like the different times in Germany and the different regimes, the kind of like police state never really changed. Like it's like continuous, whether it's the Kaiserreich or the Nazis or then the GDR regime, basically. But yeah, they have like a lot of just like talks. This book is very repetitive. The chapters, they are just made in a way that it will tell you something that is going on and then start going into greater detail and telling you again what is going on. So it's like very repetitive in that sense. And then you also always have this like mirror image of Fonti's and Fontana's life, basically. Is a lot. As I said, I don't hate it. I think there's interesting things in here, but this is way too long, like horribly too long. And yeah, I hope that within the next 3 days I might finish it if I try really hard, depending on also the migraine status that my head delivers. So we'll see about that. I'm not quite sure whether I will finish it before this vlog is over. It would be nice, but yeah, that's it for this book. Then I'm also a third into the third Emily Wilde book, so I'm reading that on the side. I read it like on the train and while I took a bath because I can't take this like big heavy hardcover book. So I'm making progress with that, and the third book is definitely interesting, a little bit different from the other ones, and I'm intrigued to see where that goes. And then I'm also halfway into my audiobook Race the Sands, but I feel like I'm in a bit of an audiobook slump right now. I just don't feel excited about picking it up, and I had this feeling with like previous audiobooks. I don't know, I just feel like this year or this summer has been a very like audiobook slumpy time. I haven't had like super many audiobooks that I actually felt excited about picking up, and so yeah, that's just sad because I'm liking the book, but I'm just not like feeling audiobooks right now, which is super weird because like what's happening to me, you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm making good progress with that one. This will get its own separate vlog where I will talk about it, but yeah, we're trudging along here in this household, and we'll see. I think today is like the last super hot day that's supposed to be here for now, and then the temperatures will cool down to like nice summer temperatures, so we're looking forward to that. We're like looking at what the hat is deciding to do, and I will give you one final update no matter what happens. So today is the 16th of August, and with that I want to end this reading vlog so I can upload it for you tomorrow. And yeah, this was an interesting time, let's just say that. So I have some last minute reading updates for you. I did in fact finish reading Ein weites Feld by Günter Grass. Now, the migraine definitely helped with that because I basically cancelled all of my plans and I just stayed on my couch. It was incredibly hot. So if I look like a sweaty mess, it's still kind of hot. So yeah, I just stayed on the couch and read this book. And could I really tell you what this one is about? Not really. Like, this is a weird book about German history in the weirdest way possible. And I think if you don't know about German history, this is like the most confusing thing ever. I had like several instances where something was hinted at, then I would end up Googling it, and then like 5 pages later, he finally would explain it, and sometimes it was a bit of a frustrating read. But I didn't hate it. If this book were 200 pages, I would have given it 4 stars. If it was 300 pages, I would have given it 3.5 stars. But with its 780 pages, this will get 3 stars. Like, this man just needs to shut up. Like, I know how hard it can be to stick to like shorter form content. I know that struggle, but man, that was a long book. So I would not recommend you read this, especially not if you're not German and you don't know a lot about Germany, because then it's just like a confusing mess. However, I did really like the writing in this. I think it was very fitting. I learned some new things, which is always interesting. And yeah, in the end, I didn't hate my experience with this book. So 3 stars it is. I will give this back to my grandma now, just out of spite. Just out of spite. I will tell her to read it. And then to reward myself a little bit last night, I read a little bit more in Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales. I'm now 42% into this book, so almost to the halfway point, and this is going to be my little treat for the weekend. I can't wait. Yeah, I'm still really enjoying that series and also very happy to finish it off now. And for my audiobook, I'm currently at 58%, so almost 2/3 of the way through. I'm also really enjoying that one still, so yeah, I hope to finish that one at the beginning of next week, so you will probably get the reading vlogs for Race Descents as well as the Emily Wilde trilogy in the next weeks, which I hope you're excited for. I'm excited for it. And who cares what you think? No, I'm just joking. Okay, so that's my reading right now. That's where I'm at. And I thought, you know, I will leave you with a little tiny will Cliffhanger as promised. So down in the comments down below, let me know if you've read any of these books, how weird you think this vlog was, because you've probably never heard of most of these books. And I will talk to you very soon with my next vlog. So let's spin that wheel.